Hello, good morning. I hope that everybody's well and that you've had a good week. We've had a week of weather extremes. We've had a day of cold, windy, wet weather, then a beautiful summer's day, back to the cold and the wet, and that's how this week has progressed. And it's been jumpers on, jumpers off, jumpers on, jumpers off. Today it's a jumper on day. It's a cold, overcast day. Even Bertie, Boo and Hugo this morning when I opened the door, they took one look and decided they were not going to go out, they were going to cross their legs for a little bit longer. It's October. Where did September go? It just went in a flash. October is a month of lighting the fire, snuggling down. Those nights are drawing in, and there's nothing nicer than sitting down in front of the fire with your stitching. I always seem to get so much more stitching done in the winter with the dark nights. I feel when it's dark outside I don't have to justify that I've sat down with my needle somehow. This week I have been very busy writing. I've just gone down lots of rabbit holes with research and it's been a really lovely week, but I have got stitching done and I am so close to a finish on little Charlotte Entwistle. Look at that, isn't that pretty? I love her colours. I should finish this little sampler tonight if everything goes according to plan. I've got one motif to stitch here, and this motif I've actually stitched twice, and twice I've unpicked it because I was not happy how the colours looked when I had stitched the motif. And colour is such a funny thing. It can look one colour on a spool, then you stitch a little bit and it looks another colour, then you add another colour to it and it changes again. I want this sampler to be right, so for me it was worth unpicking it, and I hope that it's going to be third time lucky tonight. This is where I am at the moment. I'm stitching a motif and I've put the first colour in. I've stitched this in a little bit of an odd way. Normally I would have stitched the row between the turquoise and the green, but the colours around what I've stitched, I only have one length of that colour, and when I stitch with it I want it to be right. I don't want to have to unpick it, because if I have to restitch it I will not have enough of the silk to finish it. So I figured if I stitched all the rest of the motif and then just fill that colour in afterwards, I can't go wrong. That's the theory. If this isn't finished tonight, it's because I ran out of silk. Now, little Charlotte, she was reproduced by Sandra, but I am stitching her because I have a specific space for this sampler in my home, and Charlotte is going to sit in a little cluster of 4 samplers. So she's going to be with Marion Horsburgh, Where Flowers Bloom, and with Anne Morley. And I'm sure that you can see why I have chosen her to hang with these samplers. I have a space where I've got enough room to cluster these 4 samplers together, and they will all complement each other. I find as I am getting less and less wall space in my home, I become more and more selective about what I am stitching, because, you know, if you stitch something, you want to be able to display it. Anyway, hopefully, if I do finish that sampler tonight, I will be starting a new sampler tomorrow. And that sampler is already charted. I've just got one small section to finish off charting, which I will do tomorrow morning. And this sampler I'm going to stitch on some new linen that has come. Now, one of my friends, Michelle Moulin-White of Mill on the Floss Samplers, she actually dyes linen, and her linen brand is Tabby Cat. Michelle, Mill on the Floss Samplers, has a wonderful website, and it's on the Mill on the Floss Samplers website that she sells Tabby Cat Linen. And you ought to go along and have a look. She's got some amazing colours, and she's developing new colours all the time. I asked Michelle if she would dye me something that was really dirtied up, grungy and aged, and she sent me 2 pieces of linen this week. Now this one is creme brulee, and it's a wonderful dye lot of fabric, really lovely. I'm so pleased with this, and I will be specifically choosing areas of this linen to place my samplers on, trying to choose what will make the reproduction sampler look as close to the original as possible. Just for example, when I stitched Tomfoolery, I placed this sampler on my linen so that I picked up this lovely staining on the overdyed linen. And again, with little Eleanor Steele. Can you see all this sort of grunginess? This was from the overdyed linen, and that really adds depth to your sampler. It gives your sampler soul. It gives it history, that sort of dirtiness, grunginess, the marks of time. And when you pick up a piece of overdyed linen, you could think, oh my gosh, look at that. But when you stitch on it, it changes. The first time I was really a little bit apprehensive about stitching on linen that had been dirtied up so much as this, but honestly, trust me, for a reproduction sampler, it just gives them something extra. Anyway, this is creme brulee, and I'm going to be stitching on this tomorrow. Then the other piece of linen that Michelle sent me was, let me put my glasses on, Sahara Sand, and this is going to a model stitcher for her model to be stitched on. And this, isn't that beautiful? For those people who are looking for linen for Anne Thomas, Walter the Pigeon, this is a beautiful colour to stitch Anne Thomas on. Michelle is British, but she lives in France, but she ships all around the world. So, if you're in Europe or if you're in Britain, it's an easy company to access. Michelle's back and forth to England all the time, and she regularly ships to the States her beautiful charts for her samplers as well as her linen. So pop along to Mill on the Floss and have a look. Michelle stitched this lovely sampler for me, which she released a little while ago, Friends. And she stitched this sampler on one of her overdyed linens, and again you can see the age into the fabric brings this warmth and soul to the sampler. I was so touched when I opened this in the post. It was a complete surprise. Like, I knew that Michelle was working on a project. I didn't know the project was for me. And look, she put Michelle Moulin for Nicola Parkman on the bottom. Such a pretty sampler. This sampler is available on Michelle's website, Mill on the Floss Samplers. So go along and have a look. It's been a wonderful week this week. I've had lots of goodies come in the post from friends, I was so touched to receive a little bundle from Kathy of Needle in a Haystack. She sent me a water canister for when I go to retreats. This actually has my name on it, and I don't know if it's picking up very well in this light, but etched on this water bottle is a motif taken from Eliza Martha Linfoot. At a retreat or a workshop, that'll be lovely to have on the table with my water. Now she also sent me this little sort of sewing station for my work table. It has a magnet on, so I can put my scissors on and they won't go walkabouts. Always losing my scissors. Oops, let's just take this off, it might be easier to show you. There is a ruler on the side of it, so you can use this as a gauge to decide where you're starting your sampler. And then it has these little grooves cut out of it, so you can put your spools on there and they're sort of positioned. You could pop some needles in there. This is a little ruler that has been customised for the Eliza Martha Linfoot stitch along. And then Kathy sent me a needle minder celebrating the little stitch along, a corner gauge and a thread keep, and she popped my name on the thread keep, and you can see this motif from Eliza Martha Linfoot here a lot clearer. That's the motif that's actually on the water bottle as well. Pop along to Kathy's website. She has a whole range of needlework accessories that she has laser cut, and lots of different colours and finishes. It's really nice to have a look and see what she has done. So that's Needle in a Haystack. All the little extras that surround our needlework makes it so much more fun and rewarding and exciting as well. Eliza Martha Linfoot's Stitch Along started on October the 1st, and it's been really lovely to see so many people posting their starts on the Facebook group. And even if you're not stitching Eliza, join the Facebook group, and you will learn a lot, because people are very active on that group and they share a lot about their stitching. Now, for those people who have just started, they have found out that Eliza's border isn't evenly counted. You must always check borders, the undulation and the counting of the undulation. It's often the exception that the girls got them perfectly right all the way round. It's very common to find a slightly different counting as they go around. So when you start a sampler, it's well worth sitting down with the book and studying the graph, counting, marking off, like it's 12 across, 10 down, 11 across, 12 up, and if you write those numbers on there, then you don't have to count as you're stitching. You just look and say, oh right, yep, that's 12, that's 10, that's 11. Saves a lot of time in the long run, and it also stops you making mistakes. If you haven't started with the stitch along for Eliza, you can still start. You can stitch this sampler at any time. So go along, have a look at the Facebook group. It's a beautiful sampler and it's a great stitch along. Talking of stitch alongs. Rose Ada Featherstone. My gosh, ladies and gentlemen, you are so into this sampler. Kathy, David and myself, we've been blown away by how many people want to stitch Rose. This is a limited edition, and I cannot stress enough that if you want a copy of this booklet, now is the time. Numbers are very quickly dwindling, and this booklet will not be reprinted. This is a one-off exclusive for Hobby House Needleworks. She's so pretty. I'm going to be stitching this one as well. I want Rose on my sampler wall. Okay, so thank you for everybody who is supporting this exclusive for Hobby House Needleworks. I'm looking forward to visiting Hobby House Needleworks in 2022. We're just trying to finalise a date because when I visit Hobby House Needleworks, I've got lots of friends who are going to be meeting me there, and we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I hope that maybe you can come along as well. I want to put some stitches in on my Rose, actually in Hobby House Needleworks. What else has happened this week? Esther Blackwood. This is the stitch along for traditional stitches. The booklets came and they look absolutely fabulous, but printers made a mistake on the inside on the graph pages. My printers have been having a problem lately with their press, so these are all being reprinted, and the new version should be arriving tomorrow, and then I will get those off to Traditional Stitches straight away. Probably go all through the night packing, but the the booklet is really beautiful for Esther. So pleased how she turned out. This is a really beautiful sampler. And talking of beautiful samplers, I'm so proud of my friend Christa and what she's achieving with Just Stitching Along. Christa has reproduced some really beautiful samplers, and I don't know where she finds the time, because Christa puts so much into our sampler years on Facebook, and I know that it's hours and hours and hours every week of putting into that group to make the group so successful and such an interesting group to belong to if you're a needleworker. Christa has released a new sampler, and it's called the TGA Redwork Sampler. I'm just going to show a picture of it now. Isn't that gorgeous? I fell in love with this sampler when Christa first showed me the original, and I'm so pleased that she has reproduced it and published it. Christa sent me the PDF download. Now, my colour printer's not working at the moment. I'm out of ink and I'm having problems getting ink for that particular printer. So I've printed this off in black and white, but the PDF download, it is a colour production with a black and white chart as well. So when you purchase the PDF, you get colour and black and white with it as well. Christa has launched an Etsy store. So if you go along to Etsy and look at Just Stitching Along, and you can download PDFs of all her portfolio. If you want a printed booklet, they are available from Needlework stores throughout the world. So you've got the choice of printed booklet or PDF. What I love with the TGA sampler is it's just such a pretty sampler. I love the sort of elongated shape of the sampler. It's lovely to have a different shape to put on your sampler wall. The colours are beautiful, and Christa reproduced this with gentle art threads, and it looks very, very pretty indeed. The other thing is she's called it TGA because those were the initials of the person who stitched it. But what Christa has done, the font used for the initials of the stitcher is a very unusual font, and she has charted the whole alphabet in that font as a little extra to her chart. And she's provided you with graph paper so that you can chart and stitch your initials rather than TGA if you want. I would put my own initials on this sampler if I stitched it. Anyway, go along, have a look at Christa's new Etsy store, and I'm sure you will be tempted. There are some beautiful samplers on that site. I love seeing my friends bloom and flourish. Christa and Michelle and myself, we've had this lovely sort of journey through stitching reproduction samplers, starting to collect antique samplers and starting to reproduce them as well. It's been a really lovely journey that we've enjoyed so much sharing, just, you know, the three of us. Okay. I'm not sure how long I've talked for. I've always had to try and keep my videos relatively short before now because of all the problems that we've had with our internet. But we now have satellite internet via Starlink, courtesy of Elon Musk. And it's been absolutely wonderful to have this, you know, super fast internet. Before, a 30-minute video could take me 5 or 6 hours to upload. Now, last week's video took me less than 4 minutes to upload. I don't know myself. It's really made everything so much easier for me, and I've had quite a few Zoom meetings in this last week, and it's just been wonderful not to be sort of sat there frozen or buffering away. Satellite internet is a wonderful solution if you live in a remote part of the UK. It's just been absolutely wonderful for us. The week ahead, Ray gets to see the consultant on Wednesday. He's having scans to see if the breaks are healing and if his neck is in the right position. It's sort of like a milestone on his recovery, just seeing how it is going. But he is his old self again, his spirit, his sense of humour. You know, he's firing on all cylinders with his sense of humour. We actually went out last week to the golf club, which is actually right next door to our house. Some friends picked us up and we went up to the golf club for a few hours for a quiz, and it was really lovely to have an evening of laughter and friendship, and we came home so happy. The quiz was brilliant, but the last round of the quiz, it's like a wipeout round. If you get one wrong answer, all your other answers are wiped out of that round. And we got wiped out, and it was, what is Sting's real surname? And we put Summers, and it was Summer. Just, we were that close. But that's all the fun of that sort of evening. Okay, I'm starting to waffle. Next weekend we've got a really beautiful release, so look out towards the end of the week. I'm not releasing her midweek because we're away seeing the consultant. We're going to be away for 2 days on that sort of trip. But after that, we've got this release, and it's one that a lot of people have been waiting for. Stay safe, stay well, bye-bye.